When a teenage girl vanished from her home, everyone looked at the people closest to her. But it would take years for the police to find enough evidence for an arrest. This is the case of the 13-year-old cheerleader who was killed by her mom's boyfriend for fun. But was the mom also involved? Let's find out. Hailey Darlene Dunn was born on August 28, 1997, to her mom Billy Dunn and dad Clinton Williams. When Hailey was around 10 years old, her parents divorced, and she and her older brother David went to live with their mom in the small town of Colorado City in Texas. Her mom soon started dating a guy called Sean Adkins, and before long, he had moved into the house with them. Hailey's dad, Clint, lived across the street from them, and he described Hailey as a tomboy who also loved glittery stuff and pretty things. Her mom said that she will always remember her laughter and smile and how funny she was. Her friends said that she was always joking around and was never afraid to speak her mind. Hailey was a student and a cheerleader at Colorado City Middle School, where she had many friends and participated in almost every sport activity, including basketball, volleyball, and softball. Hailey was also super close with her dad, and she would always pop by his house every single day. Whether it was dropping by on her way to school or staying over for dinner, Hailey never missed a chance to spend time with her dad. On Christmas Day of 2010, Hailey spent most of the day with her mom and brother, then went over to her dad's to spend the night. According to her grandmother, Hailey was in high spirits and was super excited about the new iPad she had received as a present. On December 27, 2010, Hailey's mom said that she had left for work at around 6:30 a.m. and left Hailey sleeping in her bed. Her boyfriend Sean had left an hour earlier, and Hailey's brother David was over at a friend's house. So Hailey was going to be home alone that day, which was really not that unusual. Billy said that she assumed that when Hailey woke up, she was going to head over to her dad's place, but when Billy returned home later that day, Hailey was nowhere to be found. Billy asked Sean if he had seen Hailey, and he said that she told him that she was going over to her dad's, and then staying over at a friend's house. So Billy went on with her evening, knowing that her daughter was safe. However, the next day, Hailey was still not back yet, and Billy decided to call Hailey's friend to find out what was going on. She was shocked when the friend told her that Hailey was not there and had not spent the night. Billy then went over to Clint's house to check if Hailey was with him, but she was not there, and Clint said that he had not seen her the previous day either. Now getting worried, Billy went door to door asking everyone if they had seen her daughter, but no one had. Billy said that she was scared that someone had grabbed her daughter while she was going to the store, or maybe that Hailey had been mad about something at home and decided to run away. But looking at Hailey's room, everything you would expect a teenage girl to take with her if she's running away from home was still there. So, what happened to Hailey? Billy filed a missing persons report on December 28th at around 2 p.m. At first, the police treated Hailey's disappearance as a runaway case, but later they upscaled it into a missing child's case. The whole town rallied around the family and came out in large numbers to help find the missing girl. The media also jumped in the story and reported daily updates of how the search was going.
Police say they are taking a more aggressive approach. They're actually canvassing the neighborhood around the Dunn home with non-uniform officers. They're going door to door looking for anybody that might know anything about Hailey. They're asking them questions. Do they know Hailey? What are they doing to help find Hailey? And if they can search the home. When officers do go in the home, they say they're looking only for Hailey, nothing else. Now, while police are out here doing their searches, hundreds of people have actually come together to conduct their own searches. One group has gone all the way to Dunn looking for anything to lead them to the girl.
Since Sean was the last person to see Hailey, the police wanted to know more about everything that happened that day. Sean said that when he got to work that morning, he got into a huge fight with his boss and was fired. He then drove over to his mom's place in Big Springs and came back home at around 3 p.m. and found Hailey in the living room watching TV.
I went to me and Billy's bedroom, and she came in there and told me that she was going to her father's house and that she was staying the night with a friend, and then she left.
He said that he was alone in the house for about an hour before Hailey's brother David came home with a friend and they started playing video games. Later in the evening, he went to pick Billy up from work, and that was it.
And this whole time you were thinking Hailey was at a friend's house?
Yes.
About what time did she say she was leaving that night?
What time Hailey was leaving?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was sometime in between 3 and 3:30 when she said she was leaving. It was like shortly after I got there.
Sean said that Hailey would usually go off like that without calling home to check in, but that she would always come back home the next morning. As search parties combed through the woods and fields for any sign of Hailey, people started to notice that the people closest to her were not as involved as everyone else. Clint, who was clearly distraught about his daughter's disappearance, said that he was searching dumpsters, alleys, and the streets. Billy said that she couldn't bring herself to search the fields because it meant that her daughter was dead and that they were searching for her body. She said that they would only hand out flyers, post on social media, and speak to the media. Sean did not even participate in any search activity and tried to stay as far away from the investigation as possible. The investigators questioned everyone in the area, including registered offenders, but they were all ruled out as suspects. On December 29th, police searched the homes of Billy and Clint, but found no evidence to suggest foul play. On December 31st, a dog managed to track Hailey's scent from Billy's house to Clint's house to a friend's and then to a motel in the neighborhood. But then none of the staff there could remember seeing Hailey that day. The police searched in and around the motel but could not find anything to suggest that Hailey was ever there. That evening, Billy and Sean had some people over for food, drinks, and music to usher in the new year. Everyone found this strange since Hailey had only been missing for 4 days. Clint, who watched the party from his home through binoculars, said that he was completely outraged that Billy could celebrate the new year while their daughter was still missing. I don't see how you get to celebrate the new year when your daughter is missing. That should be the last thing on your mind. Billy completely denied having a party, saying that her family had come over to support her and worry about Hailey.
That it's been reported that we hosted a New Year's Eve party at our house. This is an absurdity beyond belief. Members of my family were at my house to be with me in this time of distress and to worry about Hailey.
As the investigation continued, people started looking more into Hailey's home life, and they learned that it was not very conducive for a young teenage girl. Billy and Sean were always partying and using some illegal substances. It was also revealed that the relationship between Sean and Billy was also not that smooth sailing, and that they would often get into huge fights with each other. In fact, 10 months before Hailey went missing, the two got into one of their fights and even called the police on each other.
I broke up with this guy a couple of days ago, and he's a little MHMR, and he's telling me that he's gonna me and my ex-husband, and that it's gonna be remembered for a long time.
Around the same time, Sean also called to give his side of the story.
I got a situation on my hands. I have an ex-girlfriend, and she said she's taking a whole bunch of Clonopin. It's like a variety pill that I take. So I guess she got them from me, and she said she took a bunch of her pain pills too. And she's saying that she wants to die if she don't hear about life and all the bull crap. So I don't know what to do.
None of them were arrested, and they would soon patch things up and get back together as if nothing happened. In early January 2011, the search for Hailey intensified as the FBI and the Texas Rangers got involved. Billboards were placed in strategic areas in town, and the search radius was expanded to areas outside town. A candlelit vigil with over 700 people was also held to pray for Hailey's safe return. With nothing else to go by, the police decided to give Billy and Sean a polygraph test, which they both failed. Billy failed her first test because she was completely intoxicated, and the second one showed that she was lying. Sean also failed 2 polygraph tests and walked out during the third one. The first 2 tests shows that he was not telling the truth, but interestingly, the third one showed that he had told when he was asked 2 questions. The first question was, "Where do you think Hailey is?" And he answered, "Somewhere in Scurry County." Then he was asked, "Who should we be looking at?" And he replied, "Both of us," meaning him and Billy. Hailey's brother David also told the police something interesting that happened the day Hailey disappeared. He said that when he got home that afternoon, he found the door locked and banged the door for about 5 minutes without any answer. So he decided to go in through a side window, and that's when he saw Sean in the hallway with a deer in the headlights look. This new information made investigators want to check into Sean's story about what he was doing when Hailey went missing. And as it turned out, he had lied. When he said that he was fired from his job, his boss said that he actually came in and quit And that story about him going directly to his mom's house was also not true. The police actually pinged his phone, and it showed that he went to work, then came back home, then went over to his mom's house in Scurry County. The police searched through his phone and computer and found some really disturbing images involving minors. They also found lots of really creepy printed articles about serial killers hidden over at Billy and Sean's bedroom. Billy said that it was a hobby that she and Sean shared, and that they enjoyed learning about serial killers. But according to Clint, it was rather suspicious that his daughter would disappear while Sean and Billy were researching serial killers. He said that he believed Billy and Sean had something to do with what happened to his daughter. One of Hailey's uncles told the police that on the day Hailey disappeared, he had asked Sean, how could anyone hurt a 13-year-old little girl? And Sean allegedly replied, it's like a deer. The uncle went on to say that Sean would always brag about how he hunts deer and cuts them up with a chainsaw. Sean quickly became a person of interest in Hailey's disappearance, but the police had no evidence to arrest and charge him with anything. However, everyone else was convinced that Sean had done something to hurt Hailey, though he continued to deny it.
I would never do nothing to that little girl. I love her with all my heart, and I just wish for her a safe return.
But while everyone else was suspicious of Sean, Billy stood by his side and even lied to the cops that she didn't know where he was when they came looking for him at her house. However, when the cops came in, they found him hiding in the bedroom. Billy was arrested and charged with lying to the police, obstruction of justice, and possession of narcotics. She was given 1 year of probation. She and Sean broke up sometime later. The search for Hailey continued for months and without any success, with authorities and people in the community doing everything possible to find the missing girl.
Hailey Dunn first went missing back in December of 2010. Those in Colorado City began handing out flyers and printing the teen's information on the back of shirts. Then in June of 2012, the Hope for Hailey search team brought in a psychic and investigator to help in the search. The team brought in their own cadaver dogs, went over notes, and went out and searched areas, but still no trace of Hailey in those efforts. Then just this year, search efforts moved to North Texas. A small pizza joint in Crum, Texas plastered Hailey's face all over their pizza boxes. Missing flyers were also posted on windows of local shops there. Those efforts started by Hailey's great aunt, who never stopped handing out flyers since Hailey first went missing.
Then, on March 16, 2013, some human remains were discovered in an airfield in Scurry County, less than a mile from Sean Adkins' mother's house. The remains turned out to be Hailey's.
On April 26, 2013, the Scurry County District Attorney's Office received written confirmation that the remains have been positively identified as those of Hailey Dunn.
When Hailey's dad received the news that his daughter's remains had been found, he said that he was somehow relieved because he knew that she was no longer suffering. He hoped that with her remains found, his daughter would at least find justice. But for some reason, it would take several more years before the arrest could be made. But Clint never gave up, saying that he would not rest until his daughter gets the justice she deserves.
The investigator over the case right now out of Scurry County, he told me one time, he said he doesn't care if it takes 20 years to do this. And I do care if it takes 20 years. I don't want the person that hurt my kid that doesn't need to walk the street for 20 years.
In June 2021, more than 10 years after Hailey went missing, Sean was finally arrested and charged with the death of Hailey Dunn and tampering with a human corpse. The police said they found DNA evidence linking Sean to the crime.
A community with closure tonight following over a decade's worth of questions into the disappearance and murder of Hailey Dunn. Sean Adkins, the only person of interest at the time behind bars, charged with her murder. A vigil held tonight in Colorado City for a moment many waited a long time for.
Sean was arraigned in court, where it was revealed that Sean took Hailey's life by striking her in the head with an unknown blunt object. Sean pleaded not guilty to the charges and is currently being held on $1 million for the murder charge and $250,000 for tampering with a corpse charge. What do you think about this case? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe.